This webinar will be our shortest webinar. It will not be lengthy at all. I'm hoping that we can go through the basic materials, the kind of the technical background stuff, administrative items in about 45 minutes. Of course, at any point in time, you may interrupt. Please don't hesitate to ask questions. If you're unsure of something, this is absolutely that opportunity to ask and so forth. So I believe we have representation from multiple districts. If I am not mistaken, we have Colonial School District being represented this afternoon, and we have Indian River School District being represented. And am I missing anyone? Am I missing anyone in terms of a school district, right? Is it Indian River and Colonial today? All right, let me help. And Red Clay, okay, thank you. That's right, Red Clay. My goodness, our friends at Shortledge. How could I forget? I'm so sorry. So Cindy, if we can just give me a second. Cindy is unable to hear, so let me see if there's a way to assist. All right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and troubleshoot and help Cindy as I go ahead and move forward, and then just type one more message. All right, send this message, and we are good to go. Okay, so there are two or three main areas this afternoon that I want to review for you. If you will, I like to call them the technical side of things, the administrative side of things. Getting this done first and foremost kind of sets the stage so that everything else is just more focused on content and the candidates and the expectations and how the program unfolds for the candidates and your responsibilities and so forth. So getting over and done through some of this basic stuff, if you will, it just places us in a position and gets us ready to move forward. So it really, the best way to start is the conversation about becoming an adjunct of the university, because you are technically going to be an adjunct. And to become an adjunct of the university, sadly, there is a little bit of a process. And this is usually why I start with this, because it does take a bit of active Congress to get you in and moving around and becoming the instructor of, and to facilitate the expectations and facilitate the coursework during the residency. Now, there will be an email that will come out after today's session that will detail the steps and also the video that I'm recording now. So in case you miss something or you need to go back and review it, you can do so in its entirety and provide you those extra steps. But the email is going to detail within adjunct status two areas. One, the documents that you need to complete or the documents that you need to collect, and then submit to us, Wilmington U, for adjunct status, and then the additional steps online that one needs to take and complete to become an adjunct of the university. Now, what I'll do is I'll first start with, sorry, excuse me, the actual online component, or the forms and manuals that are related to becoming an adjunct here at Wilmington University. Now, the email that I'll send to you will have a link that will lead you to this page. And in terms of the applying for adjunct position and application instructions, and in addition, the orientation that is aligned to and required for status, everything that you need is found here. Now, you will be applying for a particular position. It's what we call a clinical position within the Office of Clinical Studies, and it falls within a category of mentor teacher. And again, the email will detail this for you. You will apply for the position that the link is provided to you. Sorry, excuse me. And in addition, then after you apply for this position and you follow the link that is, you will also then go through the faculty orientation. So my screen is a little small, so I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you so you can see. And you'll see that the application for adjunct position link is here. Within what we call the Center for Teaching Excellence. This is a department, if you will, within Wilmington University, and this department is responsible for the professional development of adjuncts and faculty, and it maintains all of the accurate records for all adjuncts and full-time faculty here at the university. In addition, here at the very bottom of this primary page, you'll see Start Adjunct Faculty Orientation. Now, this orientation you will go through, and so this details all of the forms and the paperwork that is required. It is at your pace, if you will, a module, beginning, of course, with a message from our president, Dr. Laverne Harmon, and moving into who we are as a university and so forth. Of course, I'm not going to sit here and read all of this for you. Where your primary focus after you go through this module is here, this new adjunct faculty paperwork. Let me go right to that so that we can begin that discussion, because you as an individual and as a primary mentor teacher and adjunct will need to complete these forms, and these forms here, the personal data sheet, the veteran status form, voluntary identification, disability, conflict of interest, so forth, are all online, and you may fill them out. Now, the other forms that you see, the employment application, the W-4, W-9, the I-9, and the direct deposit form, all of those actually must be printed out and physically signed. And then, of course, in the email that I'm going to send you, not only will I send you these documents, but I'll send you the method in which we can retrieve them for you. Either A, you can mail them to me, or you can leave them at the school, and we'll have a representative pick them up. There are multiple options for us to retrieve this information. However, since, and it is a word obviously of caution, since these particular documents will contain sensitive information, PII, right, personally identified information, your social security number and so forth, these are not documents that we want to mess around with, right? We want to hold them in security and confidence. So whatever we're going to do, we're going to put them in either sealed envelopes, we're going to make sure that they're not accessible and that they're not just laying around. So we want to make sure that whatever mode or method that we all agree upon for each individually of you, that how we're going to get them and collect them, we do it in a secure fashion. And then knowing that it is either I that will retrieve them, or my designee per my team at the Office of Clinical Studies, so that you know that no other individuals will be retrieving this information. It'll be one of myself, again, myself or team member, and then that information goes directly to the Center for Teaching Excellence or our faculty development department. Now, so to summarize briefly, if you want to put it into two categories, you are essentially, and I think I got a question, so let me bring that up, going to do online forms, and you're going to print out the forms, or print out the ones I'll send you, physically sign, collect the information, complete those documents, and get them to us. So the question, Angela, is a good question. What WilMU campus would we need to return the forms to? So if that's a method, Angela, and that's a great question, then it would be the one that is geographically closest to you. So Angela, if I'm not mistaken, you're Indian River School District, so you would go to the Georgetown campus at the Wilson Partnership Center, and we have the offices right there in the sealed envelope that would be given directly to the secretary, right? And then, of course, it would be sent right to me. And in my email to you, I'll detail the method of delivery. Either if you're uncomfortable and you do not want to hand it over, you'd feel more comfortable if someone retrieved it from your school, your secretary at the school, we can arrange a pickup in that manner. Or if you're comfortable and you don't mind going to the local campus as such, it will make its way to me. But that's a great question. Thanks, Angela. So then, again, two things. These items here up the top of the screen here, these are online. And then these at the bottom of the screen, these are printed with live signatures. And so to make sure that we're all very aware, and again, in the email, it's very, very explicit, this eligibility verification form, this I-9 form, you're going to unfortunately have to produce two documents, and they may be photocopied. One would be your license, and the other typically is your Social Security card. And you can photocopy those on the same document, and that may be used as the original identification for the I-9 form. So some like to use their passports, which is acceptable, but most use their license and their Social Security card. Now, even in just this past 15 minutes, I've gone over a number of things. So let me make sure I summarize it correctly. Email will come to you. The documentation here, that these items that must be signed with live signature, will be in that email as an attachment. I'll have explicit directions as to how to become an adjunct. The link that will take you to this original page here, the message from the president and welcome to Wilmington University announcement. A link that will take you to the online application. And yes, it does seem like a little bit of redundancy when you look here and you are required to fill out the same application in paper. However, it is what it is. I kind of joke around with some of our mentor teachers saying you want to be an adjunct, you kind of have to give a little bit of blood, but it is what it is. It's state and federal law, and we have to abide by it. So you will then, of course, once you go through, go into each of these other links, training and development, as you see on the left, technology resources, and so forth. And then you complete the application. Once you do, complete the orientation. And once you do, and we've received the signed live signed documents and the online, then you will be then given a WilmU ID number, a WilmU email address, login, and password. And that will then get you access to our internal systems called MyWilmU, which is, if we will, originally, I'll start and actually take you here to our particular homepage. is the My Will Mu area, where then later on, once we get you all situated, we'll show you how to get into the My Will Mu and so forth. Now, this is a critical step, and it may seem to be the most elementary one. However, without a Wilmington University email and without an ID and login and password, we are then unable to move you forward into the other technical component of this requirement. What we as I call the data collection component, the structure of how you as the mentor teacher in conjunction with our supervisor will evaluate candidate performance in the field, and then collect that data using our internal system. And without you being an adjunct, we just can't get you access to that. So in the larger, grander scheme, this is an extremely important step, and that's usually why I start with it. So I've just gone over the essential elements of how to become an adjunct at the university. Does anybody have any questions, knowing everything that I've just reviewed? And I'll be the appropriate elementary school teacher, which I was. I was a kindergarten teacher and so forth, third grade and teacher, and I'll give everybody the appropriate wait time to type in a response or ask a question. Michelle, great question. How soon should this all be completed? All right. So you're all in a very unique, great position, because we've got the entire rest of your academic school year till June, and in addition, we have the full summer. So what my hope is that we can have all of this done by either late June or early July. I would love for all of us to be in the system, quote unquote, so that you have access to and can be given access to what we call Taskstream. It's our data collection system by July. So as we continue and work within a couple additional webinars, and I have video tutorials and online modules that you are self-paced and can go through, you then have access and can, by August, before your candidate is ready to fully engage and you are ready to come back for your academic year, we've got you at the basis covered. So again, it's a great question, Michelle. I'm shooting for late June. And so I'm thinking that's enough time to get this all done. Everybody go through all the process, sign the paperwork, get it to us, and then, of course, we follow through and follow up by getting you into the system, ID, email, and so forth. Again, great question. Thanks, Michelle. And are there any others? Okay, I'm going to assume that we've got thumbs up. And if you want to give me a thumbs up or you're okay, that's fine as well. So then what I'd like to do then, okay, thank you, Leah and Samina. What I'd like to do then is I'm going to show you what our data collection system, and this is called Taskstream. And Taskstream is, if you will, a mechanism in which to capture our candidates' work, submissions, materials, lessons, and any really documentation that falls within the spectrum of the residency and or even our traditional candidates. They complete all of their work that's aligned to student teaching, and it's housed in Taskstream. Now, this tool not only allows for candidates to upload and submit work to it, obviously it allows the supervisor, or in our cases, all of you, the mentor teachers, to score and evaluate candidate work performance that's being conducted during the residency. Now, it can be, at first sight, a little overwhelming. So I am not expecting, and neither are the supervisors who are assigned to the respective buildings, for you to be experts right away. The other thing that you should feel very comfortable in knowing is that you can't break it, and you can't break anything in here. Everything, if you will, is a little reversible, or there's that opportunity to press a reset button, and we can move back in and do it all over again. So it's nothing horrific in nature. Nothing's going to break, if you will. And the last part here, the students are well versed using this tool. They've been using it since they've started the program. They've gone in. They use it for submission of work during their traditional classwork. So this is not a new tool. And then last but not least, you're going to have lots of support from myself, support from the supervisor, and we'll have opportunities to engage and go back into Taskstream together as a team to not just only see the tool itself, but to actually use it. And then more importantly, talk about evaluation. How do we evaluate candidates using the various tools that are within the system? So again, this is the sign-in page. You will be, once we get you, will me email and all that kind of good stuff, we'll get you a sign-in, a login, and a password. And I'm sure if you're like me, you've got 15 different logins and 30,000 different emails, and right, and your login. So we'll try to not to confuse you too much, but it is another process, if you will, about logging in and creating an account. Not too difficult in nature, and one, of course, that will guide you through. But once you are in the system, the programs of study are broken into, and this is very small, so let me make this larger. The programs of study here at Wilmington University for the residency and the traditional format of student teaching, and also just program study, are broken into what you see, or what we call directed response folios, or if you can imagine, or if you want to think of it, that each one of these is a program of study, and within this we put students. So we have obviously the undergraduate elementary education K-6 program, and in that particular program we've placed all of our K-6 undergraduate students, and they live in there essentially, and that's where all their documents are going to go. And each one of these then is what we call a DRF, or a portfolio. Now, you don't have to remember all of the lingo here, but I'm going to go over it so that we can categorize it for you. Here, MEE, that's the graduate level K-6. MAT would be our secondary 7 through 12 content-specific areas. Middle level, of course, as undergraduate, 6 to 8, and again, that's content-specific as well, with our Masters of Special Education. Within each of these, you as the evaluator, yes, the mentor teacher, but the evaluator, we can work within a variety of views or perspectives. At the top of the screen here, you'll see that we have various tabs: the author tab, a reviewer tab, and evaluator. Now, as a manager, have this last tab, evaluation manager. No, you will not have that. You would not have that role. But these three areas are the three areas in which you will work within Taskstream. Primarily, sorry, pardon me, my allergies are killing me. Primarily, you're going to work here as a reviewer and an evaluator. So the first designation is what's the difference between these two. In the reviewer mode, you can review, read, and provide feedback on candidate submission of lesson plans, thematic units, and so forth. It's an opportunity, if you will, for a candidate to provide you something, and you're not scoring it yet. In reviewer mode, you're just taking a look at it. I'm reviewing it, and I'm going to give you some feedback, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and ideas. Now, when the student is ready to move from thoughts and ideas and feedback into application, implementation, or enactment of a lesson that was planned, designed, and developed, and they submit it to you after they've taught it, then we are moving into the evaluator mode or tab here, and we evaluate student work. We evaluate the various forms and documents and lessons that they've taught, and we use very clean rubrics, which you're all going to be very familiar with. And so that is the best way I think I can describe the difference between these two, review and evaluator. So basically, review is I'm going to see it, I'm going to give you my thoughts and ideas. Evaluator, I'm ready to score. Now, this last one here, the author, I always have our mentor teachers and everyone have this tab because it gives you the ability to see what the students see, meaning the students are the authors. They're the ones who are going to create all this stuff, and they're going to give it to you, the mentor teacher. So as author, as mentor teachers, it's good to see what the students see. And actually, that's where I always like to begin as well, which is let's take a look at what our students see in Taskstream as it relates to their program of study. So I'll start with just the middle level, if I may, 6 to 8, and click on that. Please know that this structure and format is all the same in each of the respective programs. So whether it's the Master's in Elementary Ed or it's the Special Education program, this design is all the same, meaning you'll see that they're all the same. And you will all have access to each of these programs. Now, you may not have an elementary candidate because you may be a middle school educator. However, it is important that you know that you'll have access to all of this. Sorry, excuse me. So you'll see as you can, and once you get access, you'll be able to scroll through, and each of these areas has the ability for the candidate to submit and or upload or provide assessment, documentation, performance, application of skills and knowledge related to the respective coursework. Now, for the year-long residency, candidates are engaging in coursework. However, they are not taking the coursework at Wilmington University. Part of the beauty of the residency model is that this coursework, quote unquote coursework, is collapsed and facilitated in the school by you, the mentor teacher, in conjunction with the university liaison supervisor. Even so, we still have to capture this data. Now, there's a lot of reasons why we capture the data. If it may be, one, for the state of Delaware accreditation standards so that we may operate as an institute of higher ed with teacher preparation, for our own national accreditation body, which is called CAEP, C-A-E-P. We also have individual program standard performance assessments called SPAs. Here you see it identified as the National Middle School Association, and this particular program as such, we report to them as well, and also to our stakeholders. So the data that we're collecting, and our stakeholders really are our students and you, the LEAs out in the districts. This data is very important to us. And as we collect this information, it is housed in respective pieces or parts of a student's program of study. So to give you a good, pardon me, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Pardon me. My again, my allergies and my throat's getting a little dry. I apologize. So, as an example, this is called Practicum 3. This link right here, and within this link, as I've opened it up, you'll see that we collect a certain amount of data on our candidates. And let you look at that for a minute. Okay, sorry. So the students, at a minimum, during Practicum 3, which typically is a 50-hour field-based experience, must complete a set of dispositional activities, are observed a minimum of 2 times, complete a response to their observation that is aligned to the analysis and reflection of the lesson implementation. And of course, they submit an evaluation on their experience. Now, as candidates go through this program and they are submitting this information, it is being scored by the university supervisor. In a way, if you think, or it could see this, if I click on one area, such as observation number 1, the students are going to upload their lesson and any documentation that is revolving around the lesson, and it's aligned to DPAS 2 components 1, 2, and 3. So we know that, right, as planning and prep, classroom management, and instruction. And we follow the DPAS model because that is a state mandated requirement. And many may not know this, but all institutes of higher ed in the state of Delaware must integrate the DPAS model to some form and function within their teacher preparation programs. We have a particular lesson plan format that we use. The candidates must complete the pre and post observation form that you should be familiar with. They must videotape their entire lesson, not just a snippet, but the entire lesson. And then they complete the form here, and then when ready, submit it to the evaluator. Now, there's a lot here, and I'm not asking you to remember it all. The idea, though, is that this tool will be an essential tool in collecting the information necessary for evaluating our candidates. As an overview, during the residency, candidates will and do work within specific dispositions. Candidates will work within a professional responsibilities and growth form. They will finalize their philosophy of education. They will be observed the minimum in the first part of the year, the fall, if you will, formally observed and evaluated, and especially noted formal evaluation, a minimum of 2 times. At the undergraduate and graduate level programs, they also must engage in the various methods or pedagogy coursework, depending on elementary to secondary level. Elementary, obviously all, secondary, content specific. We integrate that in varying ways. And as we move forward together, we'll talk about how that occurs. But right now, please just know that they do and will create units and thematic units at the elementary level, and at the secondary level focus on a specific, obviously, content area, but will engage in multiple not units, but areas of focus or conceptual areas that they must be constructing and teaching within. Then we still, by state law, must have a course called student teaching on their transcript, And as such, then we collect data around that where they are evaluated at the midterm. That's usually in December to January. They are formally observed a minimum of 3 times, and that's the latter part after January. And then, of course, there's a final evaluation of their clinical experience. So as you can see, we collect a lot of data and we collect a lot of information on our students. And it's not just data that's collected to sit on a shelf. We do use this in a variety of ways, and we'll go over that as a team in the next couple of weeks to months, especially as we gather on June 27th. So, sorry, as my voice goes, and I apologize for that. Let me stop for a moment. I've spent another about 20 minutes going over a kind of larger view here of a tool that we use, and I'd like to just take a break and ask, are there any questions at this time? Seeing maybe that there aren't, what I'm going to do now is give you a a glimpse. Oh, Paul, great question. Where can we find this video if we need a refresher? Sorry. Paul, as soon as we're done here this afternoon, I will take the recording. I'm going to place it in my own little area and on the web, and then I'll get you all access to it so that you can review it and watch it and go over it. And I do that with every webinar. I always record it, and I have a special web page that is accessible to all of you. It'll be a password protected site, and you can log in, and then it'll all be listed there. You know, it'll say video tutorials and video meetings, and you can go in and look by date as to our videos and meetings, and you'll be able to access it there. In addition, that's where all the documentation, handbooks, and so forth will be. And I will show that to you before we hang up this afternoon. That's a great question. Thank you, Paul. So if I can, I'm going to then show you as an evaluator what this looks like. Now, again, please don't worry. Don't take notes. Don't think that there's a test at the end. Please don't think I expect you to understand this by June. This is something that you'll do, takes time. It's a learning tool, if you will, as well. There's a learning curve. The nice thing about this is, again, your supervisors are very well versed. They have been having used this for years, and they're able to engage in the process with you. So let me bring up, if I can, a student in the K-6 program. So if you can, for a moment, sorry, I really do apologize here, folks, for my voice here. I'll just bring up my list, and I'm going to go ahead and grab a student. Oops. Oh, I thought I was right. Oh, I'm very sorry. Thanks for your patience. And these are our actual student teachers from this semester I'm trying to get access to. Can't remember them all. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, let me bring a student here into view. You'll see that I've entered a student's name, and the student comes up multiple times because there are multiple people, if you will, that have taught this particular student. There are individuals from across the university, and those of my friends in Indian River School District, you may recognize that name because she does teach for us. When you're ready, you click on the student's name, and it brings up, if you will, the various categories that were a part of the same framework that I just showed you. There's the dispositions. Here would be the student's professional responsibilities. This would be their philosophy of ed. Here's practicum 1, practicum 2, practicum 3, student teaching. So this student is in student teaching. He's a candidate in student teaching. He's going to graduate on Sunday. So I've clicked on student teaching, sorry, because we have work submitted by the student. I click continue. And what comes up is the student's work within the area that I've selected. So again, here's student teaching. And we see that we have the student's multicultural form, observation 1, 2, 3, midterm, their final evaluation, his feedback on his experience. If I was to click on, let's say, observation number 1, and able to review the student's information, what he submitted, scoring it, editing it, reviewing it, as the evaluator, we would have that access. And here we see that this individual in the K-6 program, for his very first lesson, was scored in the various components of DPAS, the instructor's comments, and more importantly, the student's work. I clicked on the tab, we could see what the student attached, not just his lesson video, but also the lesson and documentation that went along with it, and as well, his pre and post observation form, which is similar to what all of you use or have used in the past. So again, not saying that you're going to need to remember this. This is more just a picture as to what we collect and how we collect it. It's all, if you will, information that you're going to work within for the residents. It is really a data collection tool. So, sorry, excuse me. This opportunity to just look at this and to view it in the terms of a student's view versus the reviewing mode versus how we're going to score it, we're going to provide you additional professional development and additional opportunities to work within the evaluation aspects. This, again, is just an overview to get you understanding where the framework is so that we can move forward. So as promised, not wanting to overwhelm you our first time together and also wanting to leave time for conversation and or questions, I'm going to say we've done two things. We've gone over the adjunct process and how to become an adjunct, knowing that I'm going to email detailed information to you there, that I've shown you briefly in a rough overview, conceptually, the data collection system that we use, knowing that I don't want you to get overwhelmed right now. No deer in headlights, I'm hoping. And hoping that as well, that we're going to provide you resources and time and teamwork together to use this system. And then, as promised, last but not least, I'll provide you the link that will take you to this page, which is called the WILMU Year-Long Residency Mentor-Teacher Resource page. And as a preview of it, you'll see that I'll have, and it'll link out just this way, our description. They'll provide the mentor-teacher handbook, the mentor-teacher professional development. And now that as we are going forward, the next link will be, Paul, as you asked, video tutorials and video webinars, and that link will be right here. Okay, so gone over a bit of information, and I'd like to leave the next 15 minutes open for all you, and that gives us a full hour. Do you have any questions for me that I can answer, either about what we've reviewed here, or the residency in general? Because I'm very happy to answer and respond to any questions at this time. Good. Okay. Okay. Michelle asks, I am meeting with my intern next week. What information is she required to have then? That's an awesome question. Okay. If I may, I am also going to share with you, and I believe I may have done this already, this page, which is the candidate resource page. This is the WilMU Year-Long Residence candidate resource. And in this resource page, the handbook is provided, and I've already had multiple webinars with our candidates, and I met with them on Monday already, and we reviewed this document called the Gradual Release of Responsibility. And this document they should be bringing to you, or at least have knowledge of, Michelle, because it identifies what is Wilmington University's belief in what we call high priority program standards and high priority candidate dispositions, knowledge, and application. So let me start there. And I believe I'm hoping that I've shared this with all. If I haven't, I will share it out in this email that goes out to this group specifically. This is hard to see, so let me tweak it so it's much more manageable. This high priority outcomes or high priority standards, this document identifies here to the left how our program aligns to state and national standards. But more importantly, as you go to the right from resident knowledge, performance, and dispositions, what we are looking at as those high priority candidate or resident application of knowledge and skills and disposition. So this document is essential to the candidates, but it's also important to all of you because it sets the stage as to which this residency is built on. What are those fundamental elements that the residency is built upon? For example, in high priority resident performance skills within learner development, this item here, teacher regularly assesses individual and group performance in order to design and modify instruction to meet learners' needs, right? Those various needs of all of the children, not just one, right, but all. And we need to be able to measure, we need to be able to identify if candidates are engaging in this process, not just that they know it, but they actually can perform and demonstrate. And so to answer your question in another way, Michelle, our candidates need to understand this structure, but then more importantly, there is another document, and I believe, again, I hope I've shared this with all, that there are specific areas from now to August that the candidate and you, the mentor, will be engaging in, whether it be in conversation, preparation for curriculum, understanding the students served, the population, the culture of the school, the various strategies and initiatives within the district and school itself revolving around curriculum or the children served, And this document, this gradual release document, provides exactly what you're asking, Michelle, as to what should my student be doing? What should my candidate be doing? What should my co-teacher be doing and preparing for? And what it is that I should be doing and preparing for as well. And this document goes through some things that are common sense, some things that are very, very clean. For example, the expectation that there would be a initial conversation about curriculum standards. What are the various instructional strategies that are used within your classroom? What is required by districts and schools, because we have various schools here in various districts, so they're all going to be different. And then there are some things here that are not so clean and clear. For example, what I've just highlighted, demonstrating the process of the learning cycle. And what is the learning cycle? It's that process that you already know and you already do. You understand and know the children in your classroom. That's step one. You plan and design and develop lessons that are aligned to the knowledge of your students, but also have learning goals and are aligned to state and national standards. You then, after preparing, enact or teach the lesson. And then what do we do after? We reflect and we analyze our performance. And we go back and think about what we could have done better. Now, in our eyes, that's the learning cycle. And what we're going to do as a team with you, with your other peers who have been in the residency, is we're going to talk about how we model that. How do we break down the teaching process slowly and explicitly for these candidates over the course of the year? We are not expecting them from day one to jump in all areas of this cycle, but we want to begin the discussion. And that's part of what our meeting on June the 27th will lead into, is this document as well, and some of those areas that are not as clean and clear. But your candidates have had this document, and they should have reviewed it in detail. Sorry. Michelle, I hope that answers your question. Are there others? Again, I classic elementary school teacher and principal. Appropriate wait time. If there are no other questions, um, I thank you for the hour. Oh, okay, good. Yay. On June 14th, I'll be traveling in an area with limited phone reception and no computer access. Will you be recording? Yes, Michelle. I always record everything, and have that accessible to all of you. Yes. So, as I'm waiting for any other additional questions, so our next steps together then, in our next webinar, is to go into, if you will, some more of the basics of the residency and how it is implemented, and how and what the candidate's role is and what your role is. And we begin that discussion at our next webinar to talk about process, implementation, evaluation, roles and responsibilities. And at that webinar, we'll have some guests, if you will. We'll have some additional mentor teachers who have been in the residency now for 5 years, and they're going to join us in our discussion. So you just don't want to listen to my voice blobbing on at the same time, because sometimes I talk too much. And we'll have some of your peers who have been involved in the process. And that would be our next webinar. Are there any additional questions that I can answer? And please, it's not just what we went over today. It could be anything. I'm happy to answer. So then as a reminder, what I'll do, again, I'll send an email this evening. It'll have the links to the various areas that I had mentioned about adjunct, becoming an adjunct and the status of becoming an adjunct. I'll provide the link to the video and those resources for a mentor teacher. And then, of course, once we get everybody an adjunct, we then move into getting you login and access to our data collection system of Taskstream. Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, I appreciate your hour this day is well spent, I hope, and that all of you get home safely in this rather wet weather. And don't hesitate to reach out to me individually as we progress between now to next webinar to our all candidate, all mentor teacher training event. So thank you. I hope you all are well. And if I'm not mistaken, then that June 14th, you'll all be done school. So I'm thinking, hooray for everybody. So um, good afternoon. Thank you. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.